Movie lovers and cinephiles around the world, welcome once again to another edition of Andy Takes On, and today Andy takes on Shazam! Okay, look, the DC Extended Universe is DC's answer to the wildly successful Marvel Cinematic Universe, or the MCU. Now, some might argue, and many do, that Marvel has succeeded on two fronts, primarily being able to create a cinematic translation of its slew of characters that remained true to the source material in terms of the personalities and the storylines. And number two, being able to tie that rich tapestry of characters and storylines and personalities into what has been a unified universe that is successful across several films whilst telling one story. Now, whilst Marvel has done this, DC has not. Now, I feel very comfortable talking about Marvel in a DC movie review for the simple reason that Shazam used to go by the name Captain Marvel. Now, I'm not going to bog you down with the details of the slew of movies that came in the DC universe before Shazam, but suffice it to say that if Marvel gave us heroes that were colorful and hopeful and inspiring, DC gave us heroes that were full of doom and gloom and a sense of foreboding and brooding. Just imagine if all your favorite heroes were themselves, except with a touch of Batman. And at least they were, until Billy Batson. And I'm going to tell you all about that because, as you know, I'm here about the movie. How do you like my hoodie? Just while we're here. Right, before we meet Billy Batson, the story actually begins with the backstory of his big bad. Thaddeus Van begins the story as a child who wanders into the cave of the wizard Shazam and is exposed to his magical incantations and incarnations and inclinations and nations of that sort. His rejection at the wizard's hand then sets him on a character-defining, lifelong journey to discover or rediscover the cavern in which he met the magical wizard. This lifelong quest to claim those powers is finally successful, and just as he succeeds in doing that, we skip to present-day Philadelphia where we meet serial foster kid Billy Batson on the day when he's transferred to a new foster home. But today is extra special because it's also the day that he gets discovered by the wizard Shazam and then gets transformed into the hero Shazam. But he can never introduce himself as Shazam because then he would have to say Shazam, and that would mean that he would cease to be Shazam. Shazam. While we're still coming to grips with this and Billy's still grappling with his new superpowers, which include the wisdom of Solomon and the seductiveness of Aphrodite. I'm kidding. It's a joke, guys. Lighten up. Thaddeus Van seems to have undergone the most eye-popping laser eye surgery in the history of optometry. No lie. And he's just committing the most gruesome murders with the help of the physical manifestation of the 7 deadly sins. Whilst he's doing this, he discovers that the wizard, Shazam, has actually nominated a new champion, and his new quest is now to go after and take over the powers of the new champion, Shazam. All this sets up the showdown between our hero and our villain, whose motivations really aren't clear other than that he wanted to prove himself. But at any rate, they have the showdown, and it's in the theme park, no less. And as soon as Billy's foster siblings enter the fray, things take a very interesting turn when he discovers what might be his most powerful superpower, which is, of course, in the words of Vin Diesel,
his family.
The Shazam and the Furious. Yay! You did it, DC. You did it. You made a superhero movie for the kids with bright colors and everything. Wow. I knew you had it in you. I suppose when your main hero's colors are
gold shoes, gold belt, white cape,
white, gold, and cherry red, there's really not much room for you to go the gloom and doom route, although you did it with Superman. But I digress. Listen, while the plot is paper thin, there are a few themes that really do shine from the story. And the number one theme is wish fulfillment is probably the biggest theme from this movie because like the hero is literally a teenage boy who gets powers that rival those of Superman. Come on. And on top of that, he gets to be able to share those with his family. Take that, radioactive spiders. The second theme is the importance of family. You see, in a conversation between the hero and the villain, what comes out is that they had a similar worldview in that they both had arrived at the conclusion that life is best lived by yourself. But Billy's character arc shows him that sometimes you can't make it on your own. And fortunately, he begins to subscribe to this new idea of the importance of family. And of course, the third and most important theme is never go to the theme park, okay? right? Because every major event that happens in Billy's life, from being abandoned by his mother to discovering a new superpower with his family, happens in a theme park. Not least of which is the cosmic joke of getting lost, like completely lost, moments after winning a compass. A compass. Who wrote this? Why? Okay, looking at the characters that drive this movie, we've got the wizard Shazam, and if we're going to be 100% honest with ourselves, this is the true villain of this film. You don't kidnap young boys, you dirty, unbathed, unkempt old man, and draw them into your dark and dingy lair, and then tell them either one of two things. Number one, you'll never be worthy, or number two, lay your hands on my staff and say my name so that my powers might flow through you?
Lay your hands on my staff
Gross.
and say my name so my powers may flow through you.
Hello, Child Protective Services? Come on. Like, I don't know how exactly a person makes a supervillain. I know that superheroes are made with sugar, spice, and everything nice. But if you wanted to make a supervillain, I'm telling you, this guy has the template. And then we have Thaddeus Savan. Look, he's the first of the Wizard Shazam's victims that we get to see. And you can tell that the writers really had a tough time of turning the little boy who was bullied by his brother, ignored by his father, and kidnapped by the wizard and told he wasn't worthy, of turning that little boy into an unsympathetic character. So they made him go full murder mayhem in just the most ridiculous and most gruesome of ways. We simply show that he's beyond redemption, make him murder some people so that we can clearly identify that this is the bad guy. And beyond that, he doesn't really seem to have much of a story arc, to be honest. And the sad thing is that by the time that we get to the third act, he's already done the thing that he wanted to do throughout the entire movie. And he did that in the first act. So what is the further use of the man? But also, he dresses real smooth, like smooth, like red bottom shoe smooth. In fact, one might go so far as to say that Shazam's been hit by a smooth criminal. Ow! Now, Billy Batson, remember when I said that he's a serial foster kid? Why, by that, I meant that he's been to no less than 23 foster homes in 6 counties. Is that how you say 6? That's how you say 6. And look, what he's looking for and what he's driven by is a search for the sense of belonging that comes with being part of a family. When he finally finds it, he begins to realize his potential. Freddy, now, when you first meet him, you get the sense that he's going to be the sidekick of the story. But as you explore his story, you realize that his is actually the most interesting tale. And I don't mean it in like a Brand the Broken kind of way.
And who has a better story than Brand the Broken?
I mean in that from his quick wit, from his sense of humor, the fact that he was bullied as a kid, that he's also a foster kid, to the discovery of his powers and the relationship that he has with all the characters, Freddy's story is actually the most entertaining thing about Shazam. It feels like you're watching his origin story, to be honest. And then, of course, there was Shazam. Shazam. I'm trying to say it enough times to see if it also works. Where's my wisdom of Solomon? He's more silly than Billy, which is weird considering that he's got the wisdom of Solly. Gosh golly, like look. They really leaned into the whole 13 going on 30 Freaky Friday big thing where the humor is driven by the fact of a kid inside an adult body. Zachary Levy got ripped for this role and then decided to wear a padded suit. And that makes it really hard to suspend disbelief. But other than that, his portrayal of the character was really a lot of fun to watch. Look, an Academy Award for Best Screenplay might not be on the cards, but a Nickelodeon Kids' Choice might be, because there wasn't really enough of a plot for there to be many plot holes, but the ones that were there were glaring. Like, for example, why doesn't Shazam simply tend to the 7 sins himself, given that he's got the power of the champion already? What is Thaddeus Savan's real motivation for the rest of the movie, given that he fulfilled what he wanted to do in the first act? Why would you keep the Eye of Sin in a lockless cage? And finally, is that a padded suit? It feels like a padded suit. In fact, the padded suit might probably be the best allegory for the movie itself, in that Zachary Levy, a buff guy who the filmmakers felt needed a little bit more help, is a perfect surrogate for a movie like Shazam, whom the filmmakers felt needed a little bit more help. And because it lacked confidence in itself, it's got copious amounts of product placement. You've got Superman backpacks, you've got the Batman Batarang, you've got the cameo of a headless Superman, and you've got a Batman toy, action figure. I meant action figure. Having said all of that, it's a funny film with witty dialogue and a bright and visually appealing color palette. And coming from the studio that gave us Superman in the darkest hue of blue in the history of blue, that's saying a lot. It's a feel-good film, and for all of the reasons that I've given, I'm going to give this one a 3 out of a possible 5 stars. And those are my takeouts from Andy Takes on Shazam, and I am taking off. I will see you next time, but before I go, allow me to leave you with this one word. Shazam! Shazam!